Hi, I'm Alison from Bag Lady Bird Learn to Sew. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make your pattern for your tailor's ham and your seam roll, and I'll be showing you what you need to do to get it cut out and ready to sew up next week. So first of all, let's draw a cross shape. That's the centre line of your ham. And we're going to place one plate on that, approximately central on the cross. Draw around that one plate. Then we've got our second circle, and again placing that centrally on the vertical line. And make this like so. So you don't need to draw all the way in the interior. And then we're just going to draw a line to join those up. Okay, so we've got our little ham shape. So you can add your seam allowance onto this. I'm going to do 1 centimetre seam allowance all the way around. So you can choose whatever size seam allowance you want to do. It's not important, but if you want your finished ham to be that size, that's when it matters. So just go around. This is what these pattern masters are absolutely great for, because they've got all the gradients, all the lines to give you different seam allowances. We'll go around and make your ham shape. And then we'll just finish off around this edge. So if you did this in pencil, you could rub it out if you had any lines that you didn't want or weren't happy with. I've done it in a friction pen. So cut. Around your seam allowance line. Like so. I'll fold this in half to check it is symmetrical. Which it is symmetrical, but not down the line that we originally had. So I'm just going to redraw a new grain line on here so that we can line it up with the grain on the fabric, because it's important, because we want the strongest part of the fabric to be on the longest part of the tailor's ham. So we've now got our little ham shape, so we need 4 of these. So I'm going to do a double layer. So I'm making mine a double layer of calico all the way around. You probably want to maybe have one decorative side in cotton and another one in wool. So the reason for using wool on a tailor's ham is because it helps to absorb some of the moisture, and that helps with the pressing. So you must use fabrics and fibres that can cope with high heat intensity, because using it to press, it is going to have a lot of hot heat on it. So it's important that you don't use any fabrics with polyester or synthetic fibres in, which would melt away. So that is our tailor's ham. So now I am going to do the sleeve roll pattern. So we want a long straight line. So I've got this shape here that I am now going to use as a template to draw around at the ends of the seam roll. So that is my template. So I'm going to now use symmetry So I want my finished seam roll to be around about 30 centimetres. So that's where I want it to finish. Here we've got the starting edge. Another one on this end, finishing where my little marker is. And now I'm going to join that up. So we've got a sausage shape. We're going to draw our seam allowance on. So again, I'm going to do 1 centimetre seam allowance using the Pattern Master to draw this on. So got 1 centimetre there, and we'll come around this curve on the end. And curve on this end. You can of course use the curved edges of your Pattern Master. You can find a curve that matches. I'm so used to not because I'm usually doing 1.5 centimetres seam allowance. So this, because it's 1 centimetre, can use the curve on the Pattern Master. Okay, so now we've got our seam allowance drawn on. What I'm going to... So if you pin, so we've got this edge as your folded edge. And we're just going to cut now around our seam allowance line. Cut around. So here we have our little pattern for our seam roll. Again, this will be your grain line. And this, we're not bothering with the wall side, it'll all be in cotton, but you can also do a double layer, so you do 1 layer of calico and 1 layer of decorative fabric if you wish to. Okay, so I have pressed this fabric, and we're just going to place the Tailors Ham on here. So I've folded it, so I've got 3 layers of fabric here to cut out in one go. Making sure that it is folded so that your grain is straight as well, crucial. And just lining this up here on the selvage. Pinning on. Cutting out. Away from reds, blues, well, navy blues particularly. They tend to have a risk of colour transfer, and stay away from black as well. You don't want to end up spending time and effort making your garment and then pressing it with your lovely little tailor's ham and finding out that it is colour running onto your fabric, onto your finished garment. Would be really frustrating. So just have a little bit of thought and consideration to what you take. The other reason you would have one side in a wool fabric is that it gives a little bit of friction, so you'll have one smooth side and one more rough side with the wool. Which would create, would stop your slippy fabric slipping off and stuff like that. So you can consider that. I am not doing any wool because I don't have any wool fabric in my stash. But I am trying not to buy fabrics at the minute, and you would just need a little remnant as well. So, you know, you don't need a full, you need a fat quarter basically, and nobody sells wool in fat quarters. You want it to not have any treatments or anything, so furnishing fabrics are out of consideration. Don't use. Okay, so just to give you an idea, the finished measurement across here is 28, and across the widest part it is 20, and across this circle up here is around 15, just to give you some dimensions. We know this is 30 long but it's about 20 wide. That's the full width. So we're getting this lined up, measured, so that the grain line is parallel to the selvage. Pinning in place, and then we're going to be cutting out in just a second. So this, because it's all in one pattern, we only need to cut 2 of these, and we're doing a double layer of fabric within the tailor's ham and the seam roll, because it needs to be nice and solid and sturdy, and we're going to minimise the risk of any stuffing coming out and anything like that if we're making sure that we've got a double layer. So if you're stuffing, remember you can use either pet bedding, sawdust, wood shavings, or you can use lots of little cotton fabric scraps. If you're going to use fabric scraps, make sure they are cotton, not synthetic or mixed fibres, because they need to be able to take the heat as well. So just, if you're going to do that, make sure you think about it and you only use cotton scraps. So now we can, so we've got the double layers here. We're going to bring them both over and fold into the middle. If you're using a pattern fabric on one side of your seam roll, make sure that your pattern side, the right side, is facing together in the middle as you pin this. So we're going to do 1 pin here, and we're going to do a double pin side by side. That just indicates where you need to stop and start your stitching. So I use this as a shorthand quite a lot. A double pin side by side means that's where you're starting and stopping sewing. Okay, so we'll pin the rest of this together. Ready to sew. With your tailor's ham, whatever fabric you want to the outside of your tailor's ham, make sure you've got that facing right sides together in the middle, and then 1 layer of calico either side, so that when we stitch this and turn it through, we've got everything the right way around. Again, on this one, we're going to use the double pin method to leave an opening on the long straight side. Don't leave your opening on a curved edge. It makes it much more difficult for you to finish it and stuff it and do all that lovely stuff that we're going to need to do at the end. So you're leaving your opening on a straight edge. So we'll pin around this as well, ready to take it to the sewing machine. So I always pin at right angles. It's much easier to remove your pins, and pin with the pin head facing out, so you can draw your pins out like so.